Have you ever felt like you're living like a puppet in this frantic rush of life? All it takes is one careless remark, one judging look, or one disrespectful act from someone, and the strings get pulled, your mind wavers, and your peace is completely shattered in an instant. We often deceive ourselves into thinking we're free, but in reality, we so easily hand the key to our emotional control to other people, letting them decide when we're happy, when we're sad, and when we're angry. But try imagining a different reality. Picture an inner state as steady as a stone mountain, where the storms of criticism, chaos, or outside pressure are nothing more than passing gusts of wind, unable to shake the foundation within you. This is the state the Stoic philosophers called the invulnerability of the mind, a place where you hold the highest power of all, the power to keep the flame of your peace burning, no matter how much the world around you collapses or goes mad. The truth is, most of our suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from how we respond to it. As the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his timeless meditations, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This line isn't just advice. It's a key that unlocks the door to real freedom. If you're searching for a way out of the endless loop of unconscious negative reactions, and you want to reclaim the right to lead your own life, then today's journey was designed for you. Today, we're going to step into a deep, transformative journey into the art of emotional mastery, built on the enduring wisdom of Stoicism, combined with modern insights from depth psychology. In modern life, most of us operate like automatic reaction machines. We feel happy when we're praised, furious when we're criticized, and anxious when things don't go the way we want. Without realizing it, we hand over the power to decide our happiness to external circumstances, living like passive actors in a play whose script has already been written by past wounds and social conditioning. But the truth is, human beings can absolutely train themselves to remain calm in the face of chaos, rather than slowly wasting away inside instinctive knee-jerk reactions. This topic is not just empty theory or cliché advice about thinking positive. We're talking about a fundamental shift in awareness, from the mindset of a victim who always asks, "Why would they do that to me?" to the posture of someone who governs their inner world and confidently asks, "Why am I allowing this to affect me?" This is where Stoicism comes in, not as a dry doctrine, but as a sharp set of tools that helps you cut through the tangled strings of negative emotion that have been binding your mind. In a world that grows louder and more pressured by the day, through work, relationships, and the constant siege of social media, these ancient teachings have become more relevant and urgent than ever. We often assume freedom means being able to do whatever we want, but real freedom is the ability to not be enslaved by our own emotions. If you can't govern what happens inside you, you'll never truly have control over anything outside you. Through this video, we won't learn to suppress or deny emotions, because that's only temporary escape. Instead, we'll break down the core principles for building an unshakable inner foundation. Learn how to observe instead of react, and most importantly, learn how to rewrite your emotional script. Together, we'll explore how to turn old wounds into strength, turn agitation into an opportunity for growth, and find a path to living a life that is honest, free, and meaningful. Prepare your mind to receive perspectives that may completely change the way you face the world from this moment forward. To fully understand the true power of emotional mastery, we need to rewind time back to the foundations of thought that have been forged across millennia. The principles we're about to discuss aren't shallow psychological hacks from the digital age. They come from one of the most practical and powerful philosophical schools in human history, Stoicism. Born in ancient Greece in the 3rd century BCE, an era overflowing with political upheaval, war, and uncertainty, Stoicism wasn't raised in comfort. It was tempered in the fire of adversity, designed to help human beings find an unshakable peace in a world that never stops changing. One of the most vivid embodiments of this philosophy is Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers. Unlike philosophers who came from privilege, Epictetus was born a slave. He lived much of his life in chains, endured physical abuse, and had no right to own material possessions, not even his own body. And yet, inside circumstances as brutal as they come, he discovered a truth of absolute freedom that no one, not even the most powerful master, could ever take away: the freedom of the mind. Epictetus taught that even if his legs could be shackled, his will could not be conquered, not even by Zeus himself. His story is a thunderous reminder that inner mastery does not depend on external conditions. It depends entirely on the strength of the will within. But our journey doesn't stop with ancient wisdom. It is also illuminated by profound insights from modern depth psychology. Pioneering psychologists like Carl Jung pointed out that many of our intense emotional overreactions don't actually come from the present event. They rise from the shadow, the hidden region of the psyche that stores wounds, fears, and rejected parts of the self. When we don't understand where these emotions come from, we become easy to manipulate by the ego. We put on persona masks to face the world, while inside we're filled with conflict and exhaustion. This intersection between Stoic philosophy and modern psychology creates a complete framework for personal development. It confirms that emotional steadiness is not a genetic gift reserved for a lucky few. It is a skill, an art of living, sharpened through discipline and self-understanding. We inherit this legacy not to become numb like stone statues, but to learn how to stand firm and clear-minded, turning the pain and pressure of modern life into raw material for building a self that is resilient and truly free. The first principle and the most essential foundation in the journey of emotional mastery that we must carve into our bones is the existence of the gap. To truly understand this concept, we need to look again at how human beings usually operate in everyday life. Most of us live by an extremely simple, linear, mechanical formula. Stimulus leads to reaction. When something happens, someone raises their voice, a rude message appears, or a plan falls apart. That's the stimulus. And almost instantly, with barely any delay, we fire back with anger, anxiety, or disappointment. That's the reaction. In that chain, we behave like programmed creatures, letting survival instinct take the wheel, while forgetting the greatest privilege of being human, the power of choice. But the secret of inner freedom lives in an invisible space that most people never notice. Between stimulus and reaction, there is always a gap, a space in time, a space in the mind. Even if that gap lasts only a split second, that short, silent moment contains the full force of a person's power, maturity, and freedom. This is where we shift from passively reacting to consciously responding. You need to clearly separate these two, because confusing them is the root of countless unnecessary suffering. Reaction is an automatic defense mechanism, driven by the primitive brain to protect the ego or biological safety. It's impulsive, unexamined, shaped by old habits and unresolved wounds from the past. When you react, you're letting the past control the present. You're handing control to the person or the situation that provoked you. Response, on the other hand, is a conscious action, chosen based on your core values and your long-term goals. Responding requires awareness. You recognize the emotion rising, but you refuse to let it sweep away your reason. When you choose a response, you claim sovereignty over your mind and refuse to become a victim of circumstance. To master this gap, we must reach a deeper level of self-awareness, the separation between emotion and the observer. One of the greatest mistakes we make is identifying ourselves with what we feel. We say, "I am angry," as if anger is the totality of who we are. But that isn't true. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness. You are not your fear. You are the observer, the awareness that notices those emotions. Emotions are just data, clouds passing across the sky of consciousness, while you are the vast blue sky that holds them. When you stand in the position of the observer, you begin to see everything with a strange kind of calm. You realize emotions are visitors, they come and they go, and you are not obligated to invite them to stay or let them wreck the house of your mind. The power inside this awareness and choice is the core of Stoicism and behavioral psychology. The ability to step back, to watch the storm rising inside you without being dragged into the eye of it. This is the truest definition of steadiness. Why is this principle so important? Because without recognizing the existence of the gap, we remain slaves to circumstances. We spend our lives tormented by words we regret in moments of anger, decisions we made in panic, and relationships destroyed by an unchecked ego. Training yourself to widen the space between stimulus and response doesn't just protect you from negative consequences. It is the only path to building a self-governed character. Real strength is not how loudly you can shout or how aggressively you can overpower others. Real strength is this: when provoked, you have the discipline to pause, take one deep breath, observe the agitation moving through your body, and then make a clear decision about what you will do next. You choose silence instead of argument. You choose understanding instead of judgment. You choose peace instead of war. That is not suppression or weakness. That is mastery at its highest level. And when you begin practicing the ability to recognize this gap, your life will change in a dramatic way. You are no longer a dead leaf, dragged unpredictably by the wind. You become the mountain. While storms howl around you, you remain still, watching, even smiling. You realize no one has the power to hurt you or steal your peace, unless you hand them that power. And the moment you reclaim the right to choose your attitude, you declare absolute freedom for your soul, a freedom no prison and no chains can ever contain. This is the first step, and the most important step, into the world of people whose inner life cannot be invaded. To truly bring the gap and the power of choice into real life, let's step into specific situations, ordinary moments that every one of us has experienced at least once. Picture this. You're driving to work on a Monday morning. You're rushing to an important meeting that starts in 15 minutes and the streets are packed. Suddenly, a motorbike shoots out of an alley and cuts right in front of your car, reckless and abrupt, forcing you to slam the brakes so hard your body jerks forward. In the usual script, the automatic response, reaction, fires instantly. Your heart pounds, your blood surges, and a wave of rage erupts. You blast the horn, mutter curses under your breath, and your mind starts labeling the rider as careless, stupid, irresponsible. And that anger doesn't end in that moment. It follows you into the office. You walk into the meeting with a tense face, your heart still racing, and that negative energy leaks into the way you speak, the way you present, the way you listen, ruining what could have been a productive morning. In this version, that rider, a stranger you will never meet again, has completely controlled your emotions and the quality of your day. You became the victim. Now rewind the tape and apply the principle we just discussed. The stimulus stays the same. The bike cuts in, you hit the brakes. But this time, the moment your heartbeat starts rising, you activate the gap, the space of awareness. Instead of being dragged by anger, you step back into the position of the observer. You notice your body and tell yourself, I'm startled and angry. This is a natural biological reaction. In that short silence, you recognize a simple truth. Yelling or cursing won't make the bike come back, won't clear the road, and definitely won't get you to the meeting any faster. It will only damage your nervous system. So you use the power of choice, and you change your response. You take a deep breath, loosen your grip on the steering wheel, and choose compassion or simply acceptance. Maybe that person is in an even bigger hurry than you. Or maybe they just made a mistake. You smile, turn on a favorite song or an uplifting podcast, and keep driving. You arrive at the meeting calm, grounded, fully in control of your energy. That is the power of mastering the gap. To feel the relationship between you and your emotions even more clearly, imagine your mind as a vast blue sky. That sky is your true nature, wide, still, and unchanging. Meanwhile, emotions like anger, anxiety, sadness, or joy are simply clouds passing through. Some days the sky is clear, soft white clouds drifting quietly. Other days bring storms, dark clouds, thunder, lightning. A person who hasn't mastered emotion identifies with the dark clouds. They think, I am the storm, and they panic, resist, or let the storm destroy everything. But a person shaped by Stoicism understands this. The sky is never soaked by rain, never burned by lightning, never wounded by wind. The sky simply holds it all. It allows clouds to come and go. The sky's nature doesn't change no matter how violent the weather becomes. When you train this mindset, you stop aggressively trying to force negative emotions away. Instead, you learn to befriend them, watch them arrive, rise, peak, and then dissolve like clouds drifting toward the horizon, leaving behind the clear sky that was always there. Now apply this to a modern battlefield, social media. You post a photo or a heartfelt message, and an ugly comment shows up, mocking your appearance or attacking your views. The stimulus hits. Your ego immediately wants to bristle, defend your image, and fire back with a sharp reply to win the argument. But wait, pause. Look at those words for what they are. Simple characters on a phone screen. They're not a physical arrow that can make you bleed. The pain only appears if you choose to open the gates of your inner fortress and invite that comment inside, allowing it to define your worth. When you stand as the observer, you see that comment reflects the writer's worldview and emotional state more than it reveals any truth about you. Maybe they're having a terrible day, maybe they're jealous. Once you see that, anger often fades, and sometimes compassion appears. You choose to ignore it, block them, or respond politely but firmly. Whatever you choose, it becomes a conscious act, rooted in confidence, not bitterness. These examples reveal something crucial. Freedom is not changing the world until it becomes gentle for you, because that's impossible. Freedom is training your mind to become non-stick to external negativity. Like a river flowing around a rock, it doesn't try to shatter the rock. It simply moves with grace and passes by. And when you practice this long enough, something almost miraculous happens. The things that once kept you awake at night, the things that once made your blood boil, start to feel like nothing more than a breeze brushing past your sleeve. You still notice them, but they no longer have the power to hurt you. And that is the beginning of a life that is truly self-governed. The next step in mastering the gap between stimulus and response brings us to the second core principle, a concept that completely overturns the way we understand the source of pain and conflict in relationships. We call it the mirror mechanism and inner wounds. If the first principle gives you the power to choose your actions, this second principle gives you the wisdom to understand why you feel the urge to react negatively in the first place. To begin, we have to accept a brutal but deeply liberating truth. Your reaction is not an objective truth about the world. It is a truth about your inner world. We often live under the false belief that our discomfort, anger, or hurt is caused by other people. We say, he makes me furious, or she hurt me. That language quietly assumes other people have the power to control your emotional state, as if they're holding a remote control and you're the television. But through the lens of Stoicism and depth psychology, this is an illusion. No one can make you feel anything if the seed of that feeling isn't already present within you. Imagine your mind as a field. Other people's words or actions are only sparks. If your field is moist, green, and peaceful, the spark dies the moment it hits the ground. But if your field is filled with dry grass, old wounds, insecurity, and limiting beliefs, then even a tiny spark can ignite a raging wildfire. So where is the real problem? The spark or the dry grass? Most people spend their whole lives trying to put out sparks, trying to control other people's behavior, while forgetting the real task is to clear the dry grass inside themselves. This brings us to the idea of inner wounds. Every time you feel intensely triggered by something someone says or does, it's a sign they accidentally touched a wound in your psyche that hasn't healed. If you were completely secure in your worth, an insult would become meaningless, like someone telling you, "Your nose is blue." You wouldn't get angry, you'd laugh, because you know it isn't true. But if that comment strikes at a hidden fear that you are not good enough or inferior, you explode. That explosion is the ego's defense mechanism, trying to cover a wound that's still bleeding inside. This principle teaches you that negative reactions don't come from the external event. They come from what the event awakens inside you. But the story doesn't stop with you. To become emotionally untouchable, you also need to understand the psychological mechanism of the other person, the one you think is attacking you. This is where we talk about projection. In psychology, human behavior is often the projection of someone's inner world onto the outside. A person who is happy, peaceful, and whole will not feel the need to insult, belittle, or provoke others. Only people carrying pain, insecurity, and chaos feel compelled to attack others, either to feel stronger or to discharge their own pressure. There's a well-known line in therapy: hurt people hurt people. When someone screams in your face, judges you harshly, or behaves rudely, they are not truly interacting with the real you. They are interacting with the ghosts of their past, or dumping on you the frustration they feel toward their own life. In that moment, you are, unfortunately, just the screen they use to project the tragic film of their inner world. Their negativity is the cry of a suffering soul disguised beneath the mask of aggression. When you deeply understand this principle, a powerful shift in awareness happens. You move from the state of a victim to the state of an empathetic observer. You stop seeing other people's behavior as a personal attack. You realize what they do reveals who they are. It does not define who you are. Their insult belongs to them. It is their property, their burden, their karma. If you don't pick it up, it stays with them. This is the highest form of detachment in Stoicism. It doesn't make you cold or numb. On the contrary, it makes you more compassionate and more unshakable. You understand you are not obligated to absorb other people's emotional trash, but you also don't need to hate them for throwing it. You begin to see them the way a doctor sees a patient in pain. You keep a safe distance so you don't get infected, but you look at them with understanding instead of resentment. Applying this principle requires real courage, the courage to face yourself. Instead of blaming the world, every time you feel hurt, you turn inward and ask, why does this hurt here? What belief inside me is being threatened? This process is called shadow work, working with the darker, hidden parts of the self. Only when you heal your inner wounds, when you accept and love even your imperfections, do you become truly untouchable. At that point, no words can injure you, because there is no open wound left for salt to sting. You become transparent, so every poisonous arrow passes through without leaving a mark. That is the ultimate freedom that comes from understanding the true nature of your reactions. To fully grasp the principle of the mirror mechanism and inner wounds, let's picture a simple but incredibly powerful physical metaphor. Imagine you're holding a handful of pure white salt. If the skin on your hand is completely healthy and unbroken, gripping that salt doesn't create any discomfort at all. You simply feel the rough, grainy texture against your palm. Maybe it even feels oddly satisfying. But now imagine the opposite. There's a deep cut in the center of your palm, bleeding, unbandaged. In that moment, even a single grain of salt landing inside the wound would make you scream in extreme pain. Your entire body would jolt and react violently. So here's the question. What actually causes the pain? Is it the salt? No. Salt is still salt. Its nature does not change in either scenario. Salt isn't trying to hurt you. It isn't evil. The real cause of the pain is the open wound on your hand. The salt is only the trigger that reveals the wound's existence. The inner world works the same way. Other people's criticism, rudeness, or coldness is the salt. Your ego and the deep insecurities hidden inside you is the open wound. If you feel unbearable pain when someone calls you incompetent or a failure, it's because somewhere deep down you already believe, or at least fear, that it might be true. Now let's bring this theory into a real-life setting we constantly face, the workplace. Suppose you've just finished a major project and you present it to your boss and co-workers. When you're done, your boss gives a blunt comment. This report is still superficial and lacks analytical depth. In the first scenario, consider someone with an inner wound tied to self-worth. Maybe they grew up being compared to others, always feeling like they were never good enough. The moment they hear that comment, the trigger activates instantly. They don't hear feedback about the work. Their brain translates the words into, "You're worthless, you're incompetent, you can't do anything right." Pain erupts. They may react with anger, arguing to protect their pride, or they may collapse inward, drowning in shame and self-torture for days. They see the boss as an enemy attacking their dignity. But in the second scenario, consider someone with a strong inner foundation, someone who has healed their wounds around self-respect. Hearing the same words, this report is still superficial. They don't feel stabbed. They activate the observer. They treat the comment as simple data to improve the work. They clearly separate performance from human worth. They understand that a weak report does not mean they are a weak person. Calmly, they receive the feedback, thank the boss, and ask how to improve. No salt in the wound, no tragedy, no hatred. The only difference between these two people is not the boss's words, it's the internal state of the one receiving them. Now expand this to the mirror mechanism, projection, especially in social media conflicts and romantic relationships. Have you ever met someone who constantly accuses others of being selfish, fake, or stupid? In psychology, it's often the case that what they despise most in others is actually their own shadow, the parts of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. A dishonest person frequently suspects everyone else of lying. An insecure person constantly feels others are looking down on them. Remember the famous parable about the Buddha and the man who insulted him. A man came before the Buddha and unleashed vicious abuse. The Buddha simply listened in silence, calm and unmoved. When the man was exhausted and asked why the Buddha wasn't angry, the Buddha gently replied, "If you bring a gift to me, but I refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The man answered, "Of course it still belongs to me." The Buddha smiled. "In the same way, I do not accept your insults. Please, keep them for yourself." This classic example perfectly illustrates the refusal to become someone else's emotional trash can. When someone throws you the gift of anger or hatred, they're trying to transfer their pain onto you. If you react with rage, you've accepted the toxic gift. You've allowed the virus of negativity to spread. But if you look at them with understanding, you see a completely different picture. Instead of seeing a disgusting aggressor, try seeing them like a person who is drowning. A drowning person in total panic will flail, scream, and may accidentally punch or drag down the rescuer. That behavior doesn't come from a desire to kill, it comes from terror of death. In the same way, someone screaming at you may be drowning in life pressure, a collapsing marriage or financial anxiety you know nothing about. Their aggression is a clumsy cry for help. When you shift to this perspective, you stop feeling offended. How can you be furious at someone who is suffering so deeply they've lost control? Instead, a higher emotion begins to rise, compassion. You keep a safe distance to protect yourself, but you don't carry hatred. You understand. Hurt people. And by not reacting, by refusing to accept the salt, you don't just protect your own peace. You break the cycle of negativity right there in that exact moment. This is the realm of freedom, where you no longer need to build thick walls to block the world out. You heal the wound, so the world no longer has the power to hurt you. After learning how to create the gap, to observe your emotions and understand the hidden roots of your inner reactions, we now move into the deepest layer of emotional freedom, removing false masks and tearing up the invisible contracts that imprison the soul. This third principle is called unmasking and rewriting the script. This is the decisive transformation where you stop playing the role of an extra in someone else's life and become the director and screenwriter of your own. To understand this principle, we have to face a painful psychological truth that most people avoid. For most of our lives, we are not living as ourselves. We live as a persona, the social mask we carefully paint, so the world will accept us. From childhood, we learn a dangerous survival lesson. To be loved, praised, and safe, we must be obedient, successful, cheerful, or useful. We learn to cut away the ugly parts, the sharp edges of our true self, so we can fit into the molds our parents, schools, and society expect. Carl Jung, the brilliant psychologist, called this the persona. Persona isn't entirely bad. It's a necessary protective layer in social life. But the tragedy begins when we forget what our real face looks like behind the mask. We identify with the role. We believe we are the model employee, the perfect spouse, or the friend who always sacrifices. The price of wearing a mask 24/7 is spiritual exhaustion. You feel drained and you don't even know why, because maintaining a false image consumes an enormous amount of energy. And even worse, when you live through a mask, every bit of love and recognition you receive goes to the mask, not to you. That creates a deep hollow of loneliness inside, where you constantly feel like a fraud, terrified that if anyone sees the real you, they will turn away and leave. Alongside the persona mask is an equally dangerous concept: covert emotional contracts. This is the source of most disappointment and resentment in relationships. A covert contract works like this: I will do A for you, and in return, you must do B for me. The problem is that this contract is only signed in your mind. The other person has no idea it even exists. For example, you always try to please everyone. You never say no. You sacrifice your own needs to help friends. In your mind, there's an unspoken deal. If I'm nice to everyone, they will love me, respect me, and never hurt me. But life doesn't work that way. When you give everything and still get treated poorly, or you simply don't receive the gratitude you believe you deserve, you collapse. You feel betrayed. Anger erupts. Why am I so good, and they still treat me like this? The truth is, your kindness was never purely a gift. It was an investment, a transaction, an emotional trap to buy safety and love. And when the deal fails, you fall back into the victim role. The principle of rewriting the script calls you to end this transactional game. It's time to tear up those irrational contracts. Real emotional freedom comes when you dare to live authentically, true to yourself. You do good because it's a value you choose, because it fulfills you, not because you need other people's approval. You dare to say no when you don't want to. You dare to set healthy boundaries, and you dare to accept the risk that not everyone will like you. This mindset requires a dramatic shift in position, from actor to scriptwriter. Most of our emotional reactions today are pre-written codes programmed by the past. Under pressure, we shrink like a frightened child, or we lash out like a wounded animal. These are old scripts that have expired. Rewriting the script means that you, as a conscious adult, ask, does this reaction still serve my life today? If the answer is no, you have the right to write a new ending. Instead of replaying the role of the suffering victim, you write yourself into the role of the resilient warrior. Instead of the people pleaser, you choose the free person who respects themselves. This process is not easy. It demands the courage to face the fear of rejection, but the reward is absolute peace. When you no longer need the outside world to behave a certain way for you to feel happy, you become untouchable. You stop living on emotional handouts from other people. You become your own source of power. Living authentically, authenticity, is not recklessness or selfishness. It is removing the heavy makeup of the soul to reveal the real skin beneath, flawed but alive. It is the moment you realize this truth. Being hated for who you truly are is 1,000 times better than being loved for what you are not. Only when you let go of expectations, covert contracts, and heavy masks do you finally touch freedom. Life is no longer a performance you force yourself to act out for an audience. It becomes a real journey where every emotion and every action rises from the free heart within you. To truly feel the weight of our masks and the danger of covert contracts, let's step into a familiar story, one that many of us will recognize as our own reflection. We'll call the main character the nice one, a classic people pleaser. Imagine an office employee who always arrives early and leaves late. He never says no to any request. When a coworker asks him to cover a report, he agrees. When the boss demands weekend overtime even though he already has plans, he nods and smiles. No problem, I'll take care of it. On the surface, he looks like an angel, the ideal image of dedication and friendliness. He wears the persona mask of being likable and useful, but beneath that professional smile, a silent storm is building. Inside his mind lives a covert contract, a secret agreement he has signed unilaterally with the world. That contract says, because I sacrifice my personal needs to serve you, you must like me, respect me, never criticize me, and reward me accordingly. The fatal problem is this. No one, not his boss, not his coworkers, knows this contract exists. They simply assume he enjoys doing it, or that he has free time. The tragedy arrives on annual performance review day. Instead of receiving the promotion he imagined was owed to him, he's told he lacks leadership potential and doesn't manage his time well. In that moment, his world collapses. He isn't just disappointed, he feels profoundly betrayed. He explodes outward or screams inward. After everything I've done for you, how dare you treat me like this? He falls into the victim role, drowning in bitter resentment. But the brutal truth is this. He used kindness like a currency to purchase love. And when the deal failed, he demanded repayment. That wasn't authentic kindness. It was manipulation coated in sugar. Now picture another haunting example, this time in romantic relationships. Imagine a woman who tries to become the cool girl, the easygoing girlfriend who never demands anything, never gets jealous, always acts like she's fine with whatever her partner decides. She wears this mask because of a deep fear, the fear that if she shows her real emotions, her vulnerability, her need for care, the other person will feel burdened and leave. So she swallows her tears. She suppresses disappointment when he forgets their anniversary, and she smiles. It's fine, I don't mind. Every time she does that, she accumulates a massive emotional debt, and like any bad debt, the interest it charges is distance and coldness. Then one day, when the spring of endurance has been compressed too far, she explodes over something small, like him forgetting to take out the trash. She unloads years of buried pain while her partner stares in shock. He genuinely doesn't understand what's happening because he fell in love with the cool girl mask and he was never introduced to the real woman underneath. The relationship doesn't break because love was missing. It breaks because authenticity was missing. So what does rewriting the script look like in real life? It begins with small moments, moments that require courage. Go back to the office employee next time a coworker asks him to do something outside his responsibility while he's already overwhelmed. Instead of triggering the old script, smiling yes while simmering inside, he chooses a new script. He takes a deep breath, looks the person in the eye and says, "I'm sorry, but I'm focused on my own project right now, so I can't help with that." That moment feels terrifying. His heart races. The fear of being disliked rises like a wave. But then something surprising happens. The world doesn't collapse. The coworker may feel disappointed, but they find someone else or handle it themselves. And most importantly, when he goes home, he feels a lightness spread through his body. He doesn't carry resentment with him. He protected his boundary. He learns a new truth. Respect doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from respecting yourself first. And in love, rewriting the script is when the woman dares to remove the cool girl mask and say, "I feel sad and lonely when you forget our anniversary." She accepts the risk that this may create conflict, but it's the kind of conflict that builds understanding. If her partner truly loves her, he will value that honesty. And if you only love at the convenience the mask provided, then his leaving is not a loss, it's a release. The journey from actor to scriptwriter is like wearing shoes that are too tight for years, just because people keep saying they look good. Your feet bleed, you limp, but you keep smiling. Rewriting the script is the moment you finally take those shoes off, throw them away, and walk barefoot on the ground. The ground may be rough, your feet may get dirty, but you feel freedom in every step. You no longer suffer for the sake of pretending. And slowly, you begin to attract the right companions, people who love the way you naturally walk, not the shiny shoes you used to wear. That is the worthy price of truth. You may lose a few shallow connections, but you finally get yourself back. We've walked a long path together, recognizing the invisible prisons of emotion, understanding the machinery of deep wounds, and finding the courage to remove false masks. But all of these high-level philosophies and deep psychological concepts become meaningless if they stay on paper or remain locked inside private reflection. Philosophy, in its most original sense, is not theory meant for debate. It is an art of living, a toolkit meant to be practiced in the mud and chaos of real life. The most important question now is this: how do you bring the calm of a wise person into the rush of traffic, sales pressure, deadlines, and the endless conflicts of the 21st century? This is the most important part of the journey, the part you take home. We're going to translate abstract principles into sharp, practical action strategies that help you rebuild your inner structure starting today. Strategy 1. The art of asking questions to transform awareness. The first and most powerful step to breaking the loop of unconscious reaction is changing your inner dialogue. Language shapes thought, and the questions you ask yourself determine the direction of your emotions. When something negative happens, someone betrays you, disrespects you, or life throws a sudden problem, your brain defaults to outward victim-based questions. Why would they do this to me? Why is life so unfair? Who do they think they are? These questions are dead ends. They lead straight into a maze of blame, helplessness, and victimhood, where you hand all control to external circumstances. To apply the mindset of mastery, you need a dramatic mental flip by replacing those questions with inward constructive ones. Instead of asking, "Why did they do that?" ask, "Why does this have the power to trigger me so strongly?" That question immediately shifts your attention from the attacker to the observer. It forces you to look at your wound instead of staring at the other person's knife. Try this. What is this situation trying to teach me about myself? Maybe your anger reveals a lack of patience, or your defensiveness shows a fragile ego. When you treat problems as tests or harsh teachers, you stop seeing yourself as unlucky. You start seeing yourself as training in a disciplined field. Another powerful question for moments of extreme stress is, will this matter in 5 years? Most things that keep us awake today, a scratched car, a rude look, a negative comment, will be forgotten in weeks, even days. Remembering impermanence shrinks the problem back to its real size, stopping it from devouring your energy. Strategy 2. Premeditatio malorum. Vaccinates the mind. One of the strongest Stoic practices we must revive in modern life is premeditatio malorum, meaning premeditation of adversity. In a culture obsessed with toxic positivity, we're often told to think only about good outcomes and hope for the best. But this secretly makes the mind fragile, easily shattered when harsh reality arrives. A soldier doesn't enter battle hoping the enemy won't shoot. He enters battle prepared for the worst. Spend 5 minutes each morning while drinking coffee or sitting on the bus doing this exercise. Picture your workday ahead, but don't imagine everything going smoothly. Imagine the problems that could happen. Traffic makes you late. Your boss won't be satisfied with the report. A coworker says something sharp. Your computer crashes. But don't stop at worry. Go one step further. Visualize how you will respond as someone who governs emotion. See yourself breathing deeply in traffic instead of slamming the horn. See yourself listening calmly to criticism without taking it personally. See yourself smiling at someone's rudeness. This is not pessimism, it's mental rehearsal. You are vaccinating your nervous system. Once you've experienced difficulty in the mind, when it happens in reality, you won't be shocked or panicked. You'll feel a kind of déjà vu. I've been here before. I've handled this before. Surprise is the greatest weapon of negative emotion. When you remove surprise, you remove much of its destructive force. As Seneca said, what is anticipated comes more lightly. Strategy 3. The pause ritual and conscious breathing. In the fast current of work and life, we forget the most powerful tool that is always available, the breath. When negative emotion hits, the first physiological shift is always the same. Breath becomes shallow and fast. Heart rate spikes. Muscles tighten. This is fight or flight. You cannot defeat that state with logic alone. You must use the body to calm the body. Create your own pause ritual whenever you feel heat rising in your chest or the impulse to react surging forward. Apply the 5-second rule. Say nothing, do nothing, type nothing for 5 seconds. Take one slow breath deep into your belly, hold briefly, then exhale gently. This simple action sends a safety signal to your nervous system, activates the parasympathetic response, and returns your brain from survival mode back to thinking mode. Use this on the fiercest modern battlefield, social media and messaging apps. We live in an era of instant connection, where the pressure to reply immediately feels crushing. But remember, unless it's life or death, no message requires a response in seconds. When you read a text that provokes you, put the phone down, stand up, drink a glass of water, create physical distance from the device, because physical distance creates psychological distance. You'll be shocked how often, after 10 minutes, the urge to attack through a keyboard dissolves, replaced by a wiser reply or a proud silence. Strategy 4. Apply it at work and in relationships. At work, where ego and interest collide daily, practice. Don't take it personally. See the company like a stage where everyone is playing a role under their own pressures. Your boss may be under pressure from above. Your coworker may be drowning in debt. Their irritation is about their circumstances, not about you. When you stop seeing everything as a personal attack, you become strangely professional and clear-minded. You solve problems based on facts, not feelings. This doesn't just give you peace. It makes you a trustworthy leader, because the person who keeps a cool head in a fire is the one others look to for direction. In love and family, practice removing the mask. Start small. Share one fear, one weakness, or one real need without accusation. Instead of saying, "You never care about me," say, "I feel lonely and I need connection." Authenticity has immense healing power. It invites the other person to lower their weapons and connect heart to heart. Remember, the goal of a relationship is not winning arguments. It's understanding and companionship. Every time you set down ego to listen to the other person's pain, even when they express it clumsily through anger, you are watering the garden of your own happiness. Strategy 5. Start small and be patient with yourself finally, and most importantly, be patient. Don't expect to become a Stoic master or a saint overnight just because you watched this video. You are trying to rewrite emotional habits that have been rooted for decades. There will be days you fail. There will be moments you speak too harshly, moments you get swept away by anger, and then feel regret. That is normal. Don't turn failure into a reason to punish yourself, because that becomes another emotional trap. Look at the slip with compassion. Tell yourself, I lost my calm today, but I noticed it faster than last time. Tomorrow I'll do better. Progress isn't never falling, it's spending less time on the ground after each fall. Start with the smallest moments. Don't begin by trying to stay calm in a life-altering crisis. Practice staying calm at a red light. Practice smiling when the elevator closes too soon. Practice not complaining when it rains. These small wins accumulate into enormous inner strength, building the mental muscle you'll need to lift bigger stones when real storms arrive. Modern life, with all its noise and pressure, is the perfect training ground. You don't need to climb a mountain or disappear into a forest to practice. Your office, your dinner table, even your social media feed, these are your temples. Every irritation is a mindfulness bell calling you back to your breath, back to the gap of choice, back to the free and powerful person living quietly inside you. Make every ordinary day a masterpiece of emotional mastery, not for anyone else to watch, but so you can enjoy the incredible feeling of living a life you truly drive yourself. Of course, when we approach a disciplined way of living like this, we can't avoid reasonable doubts and honest concern. One of the most common misunderstandings and the biggest barrier that keeps people from practicing Stoicism is the fear of becoming emotionally numb, cold, or a rock in real life. Many people wonder, if I'm not allowed to get angry when I'm disrespected, if I don't cry when I'm in pain, am I losing my humanity? Does this calmness turn me into someone who just accepts everything, weak and passive, so others can do whatever they want? We need to make one core truth crystal clear. Emotional mastery is completely different from emotional suppression. Suppression is when you feel the fire of anger burning inside you, but you force the lid shut and fake a smile while your soul is screaming. It's toxic, like drinking poison and hoping someone else dies. Calmness, on the other hand, is the ability to feel every shade of emotion deeply, without letting those waves sink the ship of reason. You still have a warm heart that can be moved, but you keep a cool head that can steer. And calmness is not the same as passivity or letting people step on you. In fact, reality shows that a response born from stillness and clarity is far more effective and far more powerful than any outburst fueled by a blind rage. When your vision isn't blocked by emotional fog, you can see the situation for what it is, see the other person's motives, and make the sharpest decisions to protect your own interests. That's why someone who masters emotion is not a weak person retreating from battle. They are a highly skilled warrior, someone who chooses the right timing and the right method to act, without wasting strength on unnecessary emotional drama. This path doesn't promise ease. It demands extraordinary courage to go against instinct, but that is the worthy price of becoming truly untouchable. As we bring today's journey to a close, we realize that mastering emotion and becoming spiritually untouchable is not some distant destination reserved for saints. It is a practical discipline available to every ordinary person who longs to reclaim peace. Together, we've walked through the core principles, recognizing the powerful gap between stimulus and response, understanding the mirror mechanism of inner wounds, and finding the courage to remove the heavy persona masks and rewrite the script of your life. The final message I want to carve into your mind is this: true happiness and freedom never come from waiting for the outside world to become perfect or kind to you. That's a hopeless kind of waiting. Real happiness only begins to grow when you no longer need the outside world to validate your worth. The moment you stop handing the remote control of your mood to other people, you reclaim the highest sovereignty over the kingdom of your mind. You become a fortress, where life's storms may tear at the outer walls, but they can never touch the eternal flame of peace burning within. Don't let this knowledge slip away the moment the video ends. Change doesn't come from what you know, it comes from what you do. Starting today, I want to challenge you to take one small but courageous step. Choose one situation that regularly triggers you, maybe a car horn, an irritating email, or a loved one's complaints, and practice the 5-second pause before you react. Just once, choose powerful silence instead of meaningless argument. Just once, watch your anger like a cloud passing by instead of becoming it. Now I want you to share with me, and with everyone in the comments below, what is the biggest emotional button you want to disable, and what specific action will you commit to starting today? Your honesty is the first step of transformation. Remember, life is too short to live as a victim of your emotions. You have the power to shape your reality. As the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured in a timeless line, a compass for all of us on this path. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength,